Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Don J MMA podcast. We have had a lot going on in the world of combat sports in the past 24 to 48 hours. Dana White's been cooking, boxing has been cooking. The judges have maybe been cooking, what should we call it? Shite. I don't really know what else to call it. Look, Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol. Don, I want to quickly ask you what your thoughts were on that fight, who you gave it to, and what you thought of the scorecards.
Like, I'll be honest, I probably have a really boring answer here. I'll start off by saying that's one of the best fights I've seen in a very long time. It was very competitive. When you talk about 50-50 fights, that is the definition of it. Honestly, at the end of the fight, I'd have been happy if they scored that a draw. I thought it was extremely close. The scorecards though of what was it, 115 to 112, or was it
Yeah.
116 to 112, whatever way it was, in favor of Beterbiev is insane. How you even come to that conclusion just doesn't make sense. Like, the
Yeah.
fight was clearly a lot closer than what that judge was saying. Which, this is the thing with boxing, we're getting the big fights now, but we're still getting the same shitty scorecards, the same shitty judging, and it just ruins it as well. Like, it just ruins it. It ruins these big fights because the scorecards are so shit. In terms of the fight, though, Bivol was clearly the quicker fighter, in my opinion. And when he let his hands go, he was doing the better work. But that was his problem. He wasn't letting his hands go enough. I feel like if he had
Yeah.
stayed on Beterbiev and let his hands go, because when he threw, he landed and he hurt him. But Beterbiev is a machine, mate. Like, that guy just marched Bivol down the entire fight, had him on the back foot. The volume he was throwing, genuinely for me, I don't know. I need to go back and rewatch it. I thought a
Yeah.
draw would have been fair enough. It was extremely close though.
Yeah. Honestly, man, I think I agree with a lot of what you just said. Like I was literally about to mention before as well. The inactivity of Bivol for me really, really hurt him on
Yeah,
the scorecards in this fight. If he had thrown more combinations, he might have saw out a lot of these rounds a lot more comfortably. Sometimes I felt like he was really passive, probably because he knows Beterbiev's a really good starter, a late starter, sorry, and he doesn't want to overexpend too much energy. But he was clearly so much faster than Beterbiev inside that ring, and I just felt like ultimately his inactivity really killed him on the scorecards. I love the way Bivol's reacted to the loss too. I think he knows, even if he should have got his hand raised, there's a lot he didn't help himself with that maybe caused the other guy to get his hand raised instead. So I think ultimately, um, I gave it Bivol. I really did. I gave it Bivol. I had him at first ahead 3 rounds, but I think 2 rounds to five, sorry, 7 rounds to five, pardon me, is more fair in my opinion. I thought the fight was really, really good. It was a really good elite showcase of boxing. I'm down to see that rematch, Don. I don't know about you.
yeah. I think you have to. I mean, I think you have to run that rematch back. I would love to see it again. Like I said, it's one of the best fights I've seen in a long time. They were extremely, like, they were just the perfect match for each other. That's the definition of a 50-50 fight. Um, I've seen people online, obviously, when the scorecards were announced and the winner was announced to be Beterbiev, a lot of people online seem to be saying Bivol was robbed, Bivol was robbed. Then today, when I've been checking social media, I've seen a lot more people saying no, actually Beterbiev should have won. I even seen Carl Frampton, shout out legend of Northern Ireland. He said that the right man won, Beterbiev won. It's one of those things where it's like, what do you like? What are the judges really going to value? Because when Bivol 3 landed the better punches, but he didn't throw as much as Beterbiev did. And then you have to factor in the fact that Beterbiev had Bivol on the back foot the entire fight.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one to score. It really is. Like, but the scorecards that they dished out were shit. Yeah, so I don't know what happened there. Bit of a technical difficulty, but yeah, like we were saying, extremely close fight. Judges' scorecards were shit as per usual. That's what happens in boxing. That is the sad reality with boxing. When these big fights happen, yes, we're getting them nowadays, but the judging remains the same. It is terrible.
Yeah, some people are mentioning Kadyrov.
Mm,
Obviously, he is the Chechen leader. Oh, it was in Saudi Arabia. It wasn't in Chechnya. But some people, the camera cut to Kadyrov, and then all of a sudden, Beterbiev's getting 116 to 112. Boxing is a corrupt sport. There is a lot of corruption. There is a lot of politics. There always has been. Anybody that's clued up on the history of boxing, it's been run by the mafia in the past. Whoever that is. So there's a lot of dodgy, dirty things that happen in boxing. Look, for me, giving the fight to Beterbiev is not a bad call, but giving him the fight 116 to 112 as an absolute landslide for me is a bad call, a very, very bad call. So while I don't think this was a robbery, I think that scorecard was a robbery, if that kind of makes sense.
yeah,
Um, Overall, I think there's real arguments that Beterbiev did get the better of Bivol. But it's like we said, Don. We go back to it. If Bivol had just been more active, he probably could have sealed those rounds because when he was landing flurries, he was landing them, and he was getting through and he was defending really well. I mean, how technically good is Dmitry Bivol?
yeah.
He is so technically
Unbelievable.
good. And Beterbiev, even in the 12th round, it came down to Beterbiev's work rate. You know, he wasn't getting a lot through the guard of Bivol. It felt like, I think Beterbiev was told by his corner to go out there and get the knockout done. Um, and he had a lot of urgency in rounds 11 and 12. Whereas Bivol sort of looked like he felt like he had the fight won. But I think maybe Bivol's corner should have told him to get the stoppage too. I
Yeah,
don't know whether people. I don't know whether you're going to agree with that, Don, because I know that he would have put himself in danger. But for me, I don't think he had the fight won clear enough to coast in the last two rounds. He wasn't far ahead of Beterbiev. And had Bivol had gone out there and really looked to put a statement on in rounds 11 and 12, I think he could have sealed that fight.
yeah, I agree with you. Look, I'm going to be honest. I think Bivol definitely takes the rematch. I think there's a lot of positives that the guy can take away from this. A lot of people in the build up to this fight were saying, Bivol's going to have to be on his bike the entire fight. He won't be able to stand in the pocket. But when Bivol held his ground and let shots go, he done the better work, in my opinion. He hurt Bivol. When he stood his ground and let the combinations go, he done the better work, in my opinion. But it was just so few and far between.
Yeah,
Like you said about the robbery thing, to me anyway, in my opinion, it's more the fact of the scorecard is the issue here, not the actual outcome of the fight. It's the scorecard.
yeah,
I think that should be the issue here because there is an argument they had that Beterbiev won that. It was just really close. The issue is the judging the scorecard. This needs to be resolved, and it's not just boxing, it's in MMA as well. We're going to get on to the main event of Brandon Royval, Tatsuro Taira. I thought that was a shit. There were shit scorecards there as well, to be honest, but we'll get into that later on. Beterbiev Bivol, one of the best fights I've seen in a very long time. Lived up the expectations. Can't wait for the rematch. What did you think of the co-main event, though? Fabio Wardley, Fraser Clark.
man. Gee, jaw shattering, should we call it? Quite literally.
Fuck.
Broken jaws are scary. They're never not scary. The dent in his head, like you just see the disconnection, like from his jaw to his cheekbone. It was really, really scary. It was like just a hole in the side of his head. Fabio Wardley, that's a huge win. I mean,
Yeah.
that is a huge, huge knockout. To knock out Olympic bronze medalist in Fraser Clark, who had a really good amateur pedigree, a really big prospect heading into heavyweight boxing. Fabio Wardley cracked him with a right overhand. And then they had like a weird scuffle against the ropes.
Yeah.
Fraser Clark almost turned his back to him for a second. And as he turned back, Wardley pounced on him, cracked him again. The way he slumped into the corner, he wasn't even fully down. The referee stepped in really, really well there because I feel like other referees might have seen it a bit late, and then Wardley just follows up even more because he's not fully down. Um, Man, what a brutal, brutal knockout! That could be what knockout of the year.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most brutal knockouts I've seen in a very long time. Genuinely,
Yeah,
it looked
brutal.
like Fraser Clark had a stroke in there. Like,
Yeah,
like this season up. Mate, honestly, I've never seen anything like that. And their first fight was so competitive; it was an absolute war. And going into this rematch, I actually had picked Fraser Clark because I thought he was the better boxer in their first matchup. He just didn't have the engine, and I thought he would have worked on his engine this time round, and he would have beat Fabio Wardley because, in my opinion, technically he's a better boxer. But
Yeah.
Fabio Wardley's a freak athlete with insane power, and I don't think he can go all the way, but I think he can go pretty far in this heavyweight division. Like,
Yeah, I don't think he goes all the way either. I mean, if you're throwing him right now, he's too raw to say he could beat someone like Usyk.
no,
That step too far. Or Fury. Or Joshua still even. But I'm really excited to see what he does in the future. I mean, you get a knockout like that over Fraser Clark, who's no joke, in the first round. That's the kind of knockout where you're never the same from ever
no.
again.
And
But
he's
that
old
is the
enough as well. Like, he's not
yeah.
young either. Like, so I don't know what is next for Fraser Clark, but
How long do you reckon you're out for with a jaw break like that?
the job, like, just everything, you'd probably need a year.
Yeah, maybe more.
But I don't even know. Does he have time? He's not young. Well, he's not young really. Like, compared to the position he's in his career. It's not like
Yeah.
he's already won world titles, so he can take time off. He can't really if he
Yeah.
wants to achieve world championship status. Especially now, it's gonna have to be a rebuild for him as well. I don't know. Brutal, brutal, brutal. But what do you think of Chris Eubank Jr. back in the ring? Got a stoppage in the seventh round.
I can't believe they got Neymar to like mediate and translate with Conor Ben. That was such a weird exchange. Like, what the fuck was Neymar doing there? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, yeah, that was so weird. Look, Chris Eubank Jr. Wasted talent. I always refer to him as super, very, very, very good athlete. He hasn't got time to be fighting this caliber of opponent at this stage in his career. Don't get me wrong. I know his opponent wasn't a bad fighter per se, but Eubank really does need to get that Conor Ben fight in, and if he can win, he really needs to start trying to force a world title fight. Because he has not got time. He has not got time. He's very inactive compared to what he used to be. He's a little bit older now, but on a technical level, Don, Chris Eubanks Jr. is really, really good. Really, really good. And he and Conor Ben's a grudge match. I could see it being a war, just like when the parents fought back in the 80s or 90s. That they were great fights. I don't see any reason why Conor Ben and Chris Eubank Jr. wouldn't be a great fight either. It's also hate fueled. They absolutely can't stand each other. Um, who do you have winning that one, Don?
Uh, I don't know. I really don't know. Do we know what weight it's gonna be at yet? Because I know for the original fight, Conor Ben was jumping up. Was it like two weight classes to fight him, which is a bit concerning. Jumping up
Yeah,
that much. I don't know. I really
I don't
don't
know.
know.
I'd assume middleweight.
I don't know what I thought. I think it 168 they were meant to fight out the first time round. I can't remember. Um, I mean, honestly, it's hard to tell because we haven't seen Conor Ben properly in there with anyone actually good in a while.
And you know that I think another thing people are underestimating is Eubank is in that man's head.
Oh
He
yeah,
is in. He is in. Sometimes, especially people like me and you, Don, we don't like to read too much into trash talk or into the mind games. I think you can just tell. I think you can just tell he's so in Conor Ben's head. Like, Eubank's the reason. Well, in his mind, I think he'll put a lot of the blame for the PED tests on Eubank. He associates the slander and the public slander he got. A lot of it came from Chris Eubank Jr. Some might say understandably. Conor did fail that drug test, and that's his own fault. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And his public image has never recovered. It's never recovered. He went from being beloved, including myself. I loved Conor Ben on the up and coming. That he just absolute savage. Now, man, he's not viewed the same. He's hated by a lot of people. His image has been ruined, and I think he has a lot of frustration for whatever reason to Chris Eubank in that sort of sense where he must associate all this like slander and stuff to that fight. And I feel like there's a lot of pressure on him because he'll feel like if he beats Chris Eubanks Jr., it sort of recovers his image. It feels like that's how he kind of views the fight to me. It's a lot of pressure to deliver going in there against a guy that can make you whiff, make you miss, that's going to be trash talking you, that's going to be getting in your head, that's cocky, that appears to be arrogant. Don, I don't know if Conor Benn pulls it off against Chris Eubank.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you know what the thing is though? Yes, Chris Eubank Jr. has found his way under Conor Benn's skin, but Conor Benn this week in the interactions we've seen with him and Chris Eubank Jr., he just seems like he really wants to fight. That he really wants to hurt Chris Eubank Jr. Like he just
Yeah.
seems like he is ready to go. And I feel like yes, he is getting a lot of hate, and rightly so. I mean, if we don't know, his situation's so weird, honestly. I don't really know what's going on, so I can't really comment. But I feel like when this fight gets announced, I think a lot of people just won't care because the build up to this fight will be absolute fireworks. Both men will be in each other's face, slobbering, pushing each other. The face to faces, the interviews they do. This is going to be a mega fight. This is going to be massive. And Turkey Al Sheikh
Yeah.
said to Chris Eubank Jr. in the changing room after his fight that is the fight that they want to make next. And maybe it's being targeted for next May, which is going to be another Riyadh season event. I think that fight has to take place in the UK though. To be honest, I think Eubank Ben has to take place
Yeah.
in the UK.
That's a Wembley fight. That's a
Definitely.
Manchester Arena fight. That's British boxing. If sometimes every so often you get a fight that comes along and you're like, that's British boxing. That is British boxing. That is just. I can't honestly, Don. I'd love for that fight to be made, like you said, pure fireworks. I don't even think you could do a gloves are off with them.
No,
I really don't.
that's just how entertaining it is. Like you imagine, because they probably
Yeah.
will try and do set them down to each other. It'll just fucking kick off. Conor Ben will just explode and they'll just go at each other. Like I can't wait to see it. I hope they do it. I think they will do it in the UK because obviously with the background between the two parents and stuff. And why not? I mean, the last Wembley event Riyadh done was a mega success. Why not do another? And this is the perfect fight to do it. Other than that, just cover Ben Whitaker quickly or Ben Quitter, whatever you want to call him. But
Yeah, Ben Whitaker. That's the new line, isn't it?
wasn't a good look. Like, I mean, I thought he would beat Liam Cameron, although what I did say was this is a massive jump up in competition for him, which it was. And we didn't really get to see the showboating that we normally did. Um, I don't know. I really don't know how to judge that performance. A lot of people are saying he quit in there. In my opinion, I didn't see him hit his foot or ankle, but I'm not Ben Whitaker, so I don't know what's happened. Maybe he pulled a
Yeah.
ligament or something. I don't know. But when Liam Cameron comes out and says he heard his corner allegedly say, "Stay down and pretend you're hurt," that's really not a good sign. Like,
I- It's very, very difficult to say he definitely quit or he threw himself over the ring. Look, I think there's a bit of two things that happened in that situation. I think there's frustration because Ben Whitaker's getting pinned against the ropes, and through a lot of that fight, he was getting bullied. He
yeah,
was. He was getting bullied. Um, I said this in my TikTok video. Sometimes you get in there with a big dum dum that isn't trying to get involved or get invested personally. They just want to show up and fight. He's not been able to get under his opponent's skin at all in this week. And then, sometimes you run into a guy that just puts it on you. Look, he gave him no space to showboat, gave him no spit time
yeah,
to taunt. And it was like Ben Whittaker could never really settle, although he had some success and a lot of success actually. He didn't have time to settle, and he was being bullied on the inside. So when they come together against the ropes, what I think's happened is, I think yes, they are leaning too far on the ropes. I think you know, Ben Whittaker's being pushed against the ropes. And then I think what Ben Whittaker does as they're going is I think he kind of commits to it and brings him with him,
yeah,
if that sort of makes sense. Um, Look, I imagine the way they landed was funny. The way they went over the ropes was funny. I could see how something got pulled, twisted, knocked out of place. I really could. I would have thought Ben Whittaker's opponent would have been a lot more hurt though.
Yeah.
The simply because I know Ben Whittaker was on the bottom, but man, I thought his opponent was going to fly right over the ring, and luckily he didn't, because that could have been a lot worse. Um, yeah, look. As for Ben Whittaker's corner saying that, look, that's all alleged. It could just be to goad him into a rematch for all we know. I'm going to assume that it wasn't done on purpose to quit. But you know something, Don? He's going to have to get back in there and he's got a lot of questions to answer. And when you have a sort of showman style like Ben Whittaker, as soon as you lose, we've seen it with Josh Kelly, we've seen it with Prince Nassim Hamid back in the day. At any level, when you have that style and you kind of come unstuck, the fan pressure and the slander, well, it's gonna reach an astronomical level, Don.
Yeah. It wasn't a good look for the guy, to be honest. But again, we don't know. Was he hurt? Was he not? We'll not be able to tell. Only he knows, really, at the end of the day. But what I do know is they have to rebook this fight. There's no other option. You can't have Ben Whittaker fight anybody else. Ben Whittaker has to go back in there with Liam Cameron as soon as he's fit, and he has to rewrite this wrong on his record. What do you think of
And
this
that could
event?
have. Sorry, man. I thought the event was really, really, really good. Overall, I missed a bit of a big chunk of it. I've had to sort of catch up on a lot of it today because I was working. I know, lads. I know it's commonly misunderstood that I'm a multi-billionaire, but I'm not. And I got the main event. I was happy I managed to watch that. I've seen the knockouts, I've seen the controversies, but Don, for that main event alone, it's got to be a 9 out of 10. I'm not giving it a 10 out of 10 because of the annoying fucking musical theatrics they do before every main event that no
Mm,
one wants to see. Look, if I want to go watch a festival, then I'll go buy tickets to go watch a festival. This is a fight night pay-per-view, and I want to watch some fights.
yeah, I mean, I understand that. Do you know what? I wouldn't mind all the singing and dancing shit if it was a bit earlier in the night. Like it's like 11 o'clock and I'm waiting for this main event. I've sat up most of the like all day waiting for this, and I've got fucking Mary or whatever you call her, Missy Elliott or something out
Missy
singing.
Elliott.
Like, yeah, okay, that would be cool if it came on at like 8:30 and the main event started at 9. Okay, but not near midnight. Get off, fuck off, move. I don't want to see you there. But yeah,
Yeah.
overall, this was definitely an amazing card. Might be their best one they've done. It's either this or the Terence Crawford Madrimov card. In my opinion, that was stacked as well. But just quickly, we'll cover last night's UFC main event because there is some other news we need to go over, and that is Tatsuro Taira fraud checked. I'm joking, by the way, before people cry about that in the comments. By Brandon Royval. What do you think?
So I've actually not managed to catch up on that fight, but I'll be honest with you. I know Benjamin may expose us to casual. I do need to rewatch that back. I've seen the controversy, Don. Look, man, who did you have winning that fight?
Well, I'll take it over from here then. So I don't want to say I told everybody so, but I did pick Brandon Royval to beat Tatsuro Taira before, and see every little idiot in the TikTok comment section saying to me I'm trying to be different, etc. No, I was just trying to give you pre-warning. Trying to give
Yeah.
you pre-warning. But anyway, back to the fight. It was extremely close. Brandon Royval clearly, just from the minute the fight started, showed that he was a much better striker than what Tatsuro Taira was. Um, and he was just out striking him on the feet basically. But when Tatsuro Taira gets your back, the guy sticks to you like glue. He might have the best back control in the UFC, to be honest. Like when he got on Brandon Royval's back, there was nothing Royval could really do, to be honest. He was held there. For me, I scored the fight 3 rounds to 2 in favour of Royval. I don't know how one of the judges give it to Tatsuro Taira. I thought rounds 1, 3, and 5 were clear for Brandon Royval, and I thought 2 and 4 were clear for Tatsuro Taira. Like I said, close competitive fight, but a clear winner in Brandon Royval, in my opinion. And this goes back to the same thing we said earlier about the boxing scorecards. They are dog shit. How the fuck these people need to be interviewed? How are you coming to this conclusion? You need to tell us because maybe there's something we're missing. We need to know. We need to know. We really need to know. Overall, though, it was a good fight, good fun matchup, a flyweight. What's next for Brandon Royval? Don't know after the news that we just got for Pantoja. What's next for Tatsuro Taira? This will do him the world of good. First loss in his pro career. And he'll take a lot of learning from this, to be honest. I mean, what he really needs to work on is his striking, and I think he will, and I think he'll be champion one day.
Yeah. So, you let us know what you thought of the Royval Tatsuro Taira fight in the comments, and then hopefully one day I'll catch up on that fight. Hopefully one day I'll do my job and be a professional. You know what I mean,
It
Don?
actually was a good fight. If it was
Yeah,
shit, I
that'll
would
probably
tell
be.
you to skip it, but it was actually pretty entertaining. But on the UFC 310, mega card announced: Bilal Muhammad versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. Bully B is going to beat Shavkat Rakhmonov with ease in there. Clip it right now. With ease.
Oh, it's easy. I think it's easy because it's easy to get drawn into. Well, Bilal doesn't finish fights. Shavkat does. Bilal doesn't submit people. Shavkat does. Bilal's good in the clinch. Shavkat's great in the clinch. Bilal's fast. Shavkat's kind of faster. Bilal doesn't really hit hard. Shavkat hits very hard. Um, it's easy to look at Shavkat as what he is, the bogeyman, but or
Or a
boogeyman,
merchant.
whatever. It's easy to call him the boogeyman and sort of get drawn into the statistics of this fight. Well, Shavkat's 18-0, 18 finishes. Bilal, the decision Mohammed, he doesn't finish, guys. But guys, we do it every single time. You've got to start respecting Bilal. You've got to understand that this guy not only has probably the best coach in MMA in Habib Nurmagomedov, which I think that's a pretty fair statement, Don. Is
Yeah,
that
I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think everybody has to agree with that. To be honest, it's look at the results this year. You can't argue it.
so? If there's ever a guy that can kind of coach Bilal to ragdoll even Shavkat, it's Habib. It is Habib. You know, I do think this fight will come down to conditioning, and I think this fight will come down to preparation. Bilal Muhammad is someone that people write off constantly, but look at Bilal Muhammad against Sean Brady, look at Bilal Muhammad against Gilbert Burns, and then look at Bilal Muhammad against Leon Edwards. He fought completely different in all three of those fights. All three of those fights, the game plan was completely different. He had a big
Yeah,
injury against Gilbert Burns, but you saw against Gilbert Burns constantly switching stances, working on his kicks at distance, very cautious in when he went to the ground with Gilbert Burns, against Leon Edwards, super uber aggressive, mixing in with the takedowns behind a solid jab. His jab against Leon was better than ever, better than we've ever seen it. Um, Against Sean Brady and Bilal was a stalemate in the grappling. In fact, Sean Brady could probably even out grapple Bilal. So Bilal puts him on the back foot so he can watch for the takedowns and force him out of Sean Brady and force Sean Brady into a boxing match, which Bilal won. Bilal is very intelligent. So I think people, as much as it's easy to get drawn into, well, 18-0, 18 finishes, Shavkat the boogeyman. I think Bilal will outlast Shavkat. It's a 5 round fight. Shavkat does slow down, Don, in my opinion.
yep, I
We have
agree.
seen happen when he has the pace pushed on him. But I do think this fight will be very, very competitive.
I think this is going to be entertaining. I think both fights will gel well in there. I'm just going to say it very basic. Bilal's a better striker than what Shavkat is. He's also a better grappler than what Shavkat is. Right, let's just get one thing straight. We have never seen Shavkat have to defensively grapple. We've seen Bilal
We
have to
haven't.
do it. We've never seen it.
Yeah,
We have never
you're
seen that
right.
before. And what I want to say about Shavkat Rakhmonov is one, he's got the worst fan base in the entirety of MMA, worse than Alex Pereira and Charles Oliveira, which is hard to do. I will say they're the worst. His best win is a 96-year-old wonder boy, and everyone's saying this guy's is the best welterweight in the world. If that's the case, then that's what makes Shavkat the best welterweight in the world. Where's Joaquin Buckley? Is he the second best? Let's talk sense. Shavkat Rakhmonov's best win is a 96-year-old wonder boy. Before that, it was Jeff Neal who exposed Shavkat for having basically zero striking defense, but because he got that nice finish, nobody wants to talk about it. Bilal Muhammad has beaten more elite opposition than Shavkat Rakhmonov. Bilal wins this by, guess what, decision.
Well, who would have thought that if you're picking Bilal, you would have picked him by decision? I think you've surprised us all there, Don. Look, in my opinion, again, it comes down to conditioning, which I think people are really overlooking. A lot of people make Shavkat out to be absolutely perfect everywhere, is what I will say. Look, by no means, guys, am I saying that Shavkat has the worst fans in MMA. Don is definitely concretely saying it does.
Yeah,
I'll
easily.
let you lot decide
Or a
that.
merchant.
But I think Shavkat Ratmanov can be made out to be better than he is. You know, he does slow down in fights when he's not controlling the pace of the fight. What I noticed against Jeff Neal at the time is he really struggled with Jeff Neal's jab. Jeff Neal is a lot better at boxing than Bilal,
That is
especially,
true.
he is a much better boxer.
And he's more
One
powerful.
thing I think could really work against Bilal, I think there's a chance Shavkat won't respect Bilal's power on the feet. I think there's a real chance. I think the way Bilal Muhammad wants to win this fight is sort of smother Shavkat, like take down, jab, stick behind the jab, working the right overhands, but keep just trying to get Shavkat on his back. Don, I think in the clinch, this is a dangerous fight for Bilal if it gets there because Shavkat's shown he can get submissions from anywhere in those sort of clinch positions. He looks really strong there. So I think if Bilal's looking to sweep Shavkat and push him against the fence and sweep him or sort of get a clinch takedown, I think he'll really struggle from there. I think the best thing Bilal can do is kind of work takedowns from a distance but really sort of smother him with the boxing at the same time. This is a dangerous fight for Bilal. And what I'm really excited for about this fight is I think Shavkat can bring something out of Bilal. Um, Bilal sort of showed it against Leon, but I want to see Bilal have to really, really bring out that dog. I want to see Bilal really have to adjust to a guy that's giving him a lot of problems. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I know Leon made the fight competitive, but Bilal was ahead in a lot of that fight. Bilal's not invincible himself either. He doesn't have the best striking in the world. He doesn't have the most power in the world. And if he can't take down Shavkat, Don, he is in real trouble.
Yeah. I think he will be able to take down Shavkat. I think we'll see a Bilal Muhammad performance similar to what we've seen against Gilbert Burns. I think he will constantly be changing stances. I think he will be looking to rein in the kicks to the body of Shavkat Rakhmonov. What I will say is, I think in the early stages of this fight, it will be very close and competitive between both guys. But I think Bilal Muhammad will come into this fight more prepared than Shavkat with a better game plan than Shavkat. And I think from 3, 4, and 5 is when you will see Bilal Muhammad really kick into gear and take over this fight. I'm looking forward to it. But on to the next fight. Or just quickly, what's your prediction? You saying Bilal?
Yes, for
Yeah,
now, yeah.
I'm saying Bilal. And the fact he's opened up as an underdog as well. Easy money. Co-main event though, Pantoja is set to take on Kaya Sakura on his UFC debut for the flyweight title. What do you think of that?
Look, it's interesting because I know Kaya Sakura is actually a massive name in Asia, which is exactly why he's got this fight. He is a big household name, and the UFC absolutely. I want you all to look me in the eyes, and I want you all to understand the UFC absolutely want Kaya Sakura to win this fight
Facts.
without a shadow of a doubt. And if this is a close fight, you better bet your house that Pantoja is not getting that decision. The only way Pantoja is getting a decision against Kaya Sakura is if it is very one-sided. And even then, I think it could come down to a split decision. Kaya Sakura is a really exciting fighter, Don, from what I've seen of him. I've seen loads of him because I'm not going to lie, I don't watch Rising, but
Yeah, I
I
don't know
know he's a
nothing
very,
about the
very
guy
good
really.
fighter. I know he's a very, very good striker. I think Pantoja's going to ragdoll him.
Yeah, look, I don't really know much about the guy. I know he's 21-4 as a professional MMA fighter, and most of his career's taken place out in Rising. I haven't seen much of the guy. I do know he's a big name out there, but what I do know is Pantoja is a serial winner, and he's going to get his hand raised again and get one step closer to being the GOAT of the flyweight division, which he'll never reach. Obviously, he'll never be
No.
put above DJ, but at least he's in. He's getting. Well, he's not really getting that
And he's
close.
got
Like
some good. You know what though, Don? He's got some
he
good
does.
names on his. He's got a lot of names on his resume. I think the only question, if he beats, I guess actually going back to the Royval fight, I think Royval and Kai Kara France would be a good number 1 contender fight for whoever wins this fight.
I do
Um,
think if you're
yeah,
Royval, like you would just, I would understand if he went, I'm not fighting again. He beat Brandon Moreno on short notice, and then he beat
yeah.
Tatsuro Taira. Like, I'd understand if he just went, fuck, I'm not fighting unless I'm fighting for the belt. But then Kai
I
Kara
think the
France
way
beat Steve Ursic, who arguably people, for some bizarre reason, think beat Pantoja. So it's one of those ones. I think you should make the number 1 contender fight. Like,
yeah. Um, yeah, I think that'd be a really good fight. I think the two would get into a bit of a war. There's a chance Royval gets knocked out though, which you know I like Royval. But anyway, off topic. Those two could fight, and then whoever loses this fight or wins this fight, sorry, can fight the winner of that. Look, Kaya Sakura is a very exciting signing. He's probably one of the biggest prospect signings we've had in a long, long time. He's got a massive following in Asia. This isn't a fight that, a lot of American, European fight fans are going to be overly interested in from a casual fan point of view. But I think Kaya Sakura will bring in that sort of Zhang Weili, the same as Zhang Weili, really tap into that sort of Asia market. And yeah, the UFC want this guy to win. I know Dana White says we don't care who wins fight, brother. Just don't. Because there is no way he should have got that title shot. The only reason he's getting that title shot is because he's well known in Asia. That is it. So don't lie and say you don't want things to happen in certain fights because you do. You do. You're lying. Stop lying. It's not good. It's not good for you, Don. Lying is not good for you. I think ultimately in this fight, Pantoja does beat Kaya Sakura. But you know what, Don? Um, it is a super interesting matchup and sort of getting a title shot on your debut, if it is undeserved, which it kind of is, it is interesting.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Something different for the flyweight division. You think by the time this fight happens, we're gonna have had seen Royval versus Tatsuro Taira, Kai Kara France versus Steve Ursic, and Moreno versus Albazi. So that sets
Yeah.
up the flyweight division for a while anyway in terms of top contenders. Overall, UFC 310's looking good. I can't wait to see it. That boxing event on Saturday night was amazing. Cannot wait to see the rematch. I think that's done us. I think we've covered every big story this week. We'll be back again this week with other stuff to cover as more news breaks. Thanks for everything, and we'll see you again in the next one.
See you later, guys. Thank you.